Hello and welcome. I'm so excited today to be talking to you, Alec. We're going to conduct a coaching session, you and me. So the very, very first question I have for you is, what would make this session amazing? What are you looking for? What would you like to come out from this session?
Mm, yeah. So I am looking for help overcoming fear of rejection as it pertains to launching my business and really putting myself out there as a coach. I feel like I have a very big goal, big vision, and kind of this little thinking and this kind of fear that's getting in the way of that.
Perfect. And for those who don't know you, let's hear a little bit about you. Who are you in the world? Where have you come from?
Yes, yes. So, well, right now, coming from the UK, although I'm from California originally, I have been a semi-professional cyclist. I worked in the tech world for the better part of a decade, was a manager at LinkedIn. And more recently, I co-founded an organization called Changing Work, which is all about bringing conscious business principles into the world of business. And I'm also a breakthrough chronic pain coach. I went through my own story of having crippling chronic back pain when I was 18. It ended my cycling career, left me bedridden, depressed on painkillers, thought I was going to be in pain for the rest of my life, and tried all these physical treatments. Nothing worked. And I discovered a mind body treatment that led me to a pain free life. And that is what I coach people on today.
That is so fascinating. I
Yeah.
love, I love it. And when you say discovered, do you mean you found somewhere to study that with, or you developed it yourself?
So I learned a methodology from basically, I read a book when I was in the middle of pain that talked about how chronic back pain is chronically misdiagnosed as something that's physical. And to me, that made so much sense because my symptoms would fluctuate all the time. And it seemed to correlate with my emotions. So I basically that was the opening, the aperture to this idea of what pain actually is. And over the course of months, I was able to become pain free and haven't had chronic back pain or any back pain really in over a decade, which is amazing. And then more recently, I've done training specifically in this methodology as a coach, as a chronic pain coach, not to manage it, but to eliminate it, and a whole host of other modalities like somatic training and others.
Amazing. Okay, and
Yeah.
so what's the name of that methodology that you use?
Yeah. So it comes from TMS, which is tension myositis syndrome. And the whole idea is how both thoughts and emotions can create pain in our body. So there's a lot of different names for it. Could be tension myositis syndrome, PPD, or neural circuit disorders. But essentially, that's the kind of the broader umbrella. And it's really what I use as a coach. It's very customized. So it's not just about eliminating pain, but it's also a deeper personal transformation. So it's not necessarily aligning with any specific methodology that's out there. It's really an amalgamation of a bunch of different ones.
Okay, so you have trained and studied a variety of different methodologies that all
Yes.
relate to eliminating pain, and you put them together.
Yes.
Oh,
And
so to speak,
offering it as a coach. Exactly.
doing that as a coach, exciting. And that's what the new business is about.
Yes. And launched it at the beginning of 2023, so beginning of this year, and seen some remarkable results from people who've been in chronic pain for 30 years, being pain free, doing activities they never dreamed they'd do again. And so there's very much a deep knowing that this can help so many people.
Mhm.
And which also at the same time kind of terrifies me because it's, putting myself out there in a way um, that is very exposed and contrary to a lot of people's ideas of what pain is.
Okay. So tell me a bit about what this fear of rejection is, because right now I'm seeing a man full of enthusiasm, backed up by a catalog of extraordinary results,
Mm.
full of energy. You've got your own story. It feels like it wants to be unstoppable.
Yeah, truly. And there are days where I absolutely feel that. And I oscillate. It's so interesting, Evelyn, that you mentioned that because I oscillate between that feeling you just described and the one you see. and feeling of like despair and like kind of, oh, this isn't ever going to work. And yeah. So sorry, your original question was?
I'm pointing now towards the goal. So
Yeah.
you said you have a fear of rejection. There's something about, I
Yeah.
want to find out what that is about, because I'm seeing this man who is in his clarity and in his power.
Yeah. And I don't think it relates directly to, well, it does relate to it, but it's, got deeper roots. But there's something inherently, there can be something that's inherently challenging about, coming to somebody that's in pain and sharing with them ideas that could be completely counter to what they believe and understand. I was that way when I first approached the methodology. When somebody gave me a book that basically said, hey, this pain is not due to this ruptured spinal disc on your MRI. It's actually due to this cocktail of emotions and negative beliefs and things. I thought it was crazy, right? Um, and then, of course, here I am, like doing this as a business, like a decade later. So it's really, I think the fear of rejection kind of comes into this um the feeling of despair when I might be super excited to share this with somebody. Maybe they're open to it, maybe they've booked an intro call with me, and they say like, yeah, I just don't believe you. That's yeah, this isn't right, which I know is obviously it's not going to be for everybody, but it can be kind of disheartening when you have those conversations over and over, which is kind of what I've been doing.
Got it. Okay. How will we know that we've achieved our goal in this session?
Hmm. I would have a feeling shift toward what rejection means to me, or how I interpret it, because I know there's a part of me that knows that, like, for every no that I'm hearing, it's getting me closer to the people who are going to say yes and for whom this is really meant for. Um, but the sting of that and kind of the doubt that surrounds it just is sucking up so much mental energy. So I think it's just kind of yeah, excitement around rejection. That would be success for me.
An excitement around rejection. I,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like
Yeah.
turning it all the way to the other.
Completely 180. Yeah.
Let's do it. So if you, as and when you feel an excitement towards rejection, we know we've done our.
Yes.
Okay, no pressure.
Yeah. Let's make magic.
Let's make magic. Absolutely. Why is this so important in terms of impact and visibility?
Because it's this fear of rejection, and that one really stops me from putting my full self out there, really being seen. Like if the authentic me is rejected, like that hurts a lot deeper than, if 50% of the authentic me is rejected. Um, so it prevents me from A, putting myself out there. B, it also prevents me from um, playing full out with clients and prospects. Um, if I'm kind of worried in the back of my head about like, oh, what are they gonna say if I say there's a potential that their pain isn't structural, that prevents me from really being present with them and just doesn't lead to a good outcome for anybody.
That makes a lot of sense. And so here's how this topic is directly related to your impact in the world, is because the fear of rejection is one of the main culprits that holds people back from fully stepping into their power, from even being willing to be seen, and from going
Yeah,
out as in their best version of themselves, as we like to say, whatever that means,
exactly.
but in that powerful version of themselves where they're free to say what they need to say and to be who they want to be. Okay.
Exactly.
So let's dive in. And in my coaching, for those who are watching, I like to go bespoke. So what we're talking about might be super useful for you, and it might not be, and that's okay, because it's not a cookie cutter program. But you never know, because humans are not that different from each other. Sometimes, and sometimes not so much. So I hope that what we're going to discuss here will be super useful for people that are watching us later on as well. But for now, my attention is going to be fully on you, Alec, and what rejection means to you. So therefore, the first question I have is, wait, what does rejection mean to you?
What
What is
does rejection mean
what,
to you?
yeah,
Me.
what does it mean to you? What happens when you get rejected?
Mm, failure is the word that comes to mind. Like I see it as a failure of there was something that I didn't do or did too much of that led to a suboptimal outcome. And I know there's all sorts of poke holes in a lot of that, what I've said right there, but that's what it feels.
Yeah. And that's cool. And this thing is with self-aware people, we see ourselves talking and then we're like, oh my God, why did I say that? But that's the
Yeah.
right answer because that was the honest, that's what came out answer. That's what we want. Now we poke holes at it all we want with lots of love. What are the holes that you want to poke at that straight away?
Mm, the idea that rejection is failure and the idea that, and this one, that one feels like easier to poke holes in. The one that feels harder to poke holes in is um, not beating myself up for something I could have done differently to lead to a better outcome. So
Mm,
the piece that really gets me is if I think of that, okay, like thinking back to a situation where I was rejected in this work, say by a prospect who didn't want to buy my coaching package. It's like um, the thought of somebody else who's been doing this longer than me could have been more successful and gotten them to a yes.
yeah.
And ultimately, like why that's important, it's like, yes, it's great to have a client. Yes, it's great to have somebody, that I'm coaching. The biggest thing though, Evelyne, and I'm actually welling up as I think about this, is missing an opportunity to help somebody who's in pain. That's really what it means to me because it feels like there's um, I see numerous people for whom I don't know this for sure, but if I were a betting man, I'd say all of the treatments that they would be doing are not going to help them. And the things that they've been doing for maybe 5, 10, 15 years that just aren't helping. And so for me, a missed opportunity isn't just a client, it's a missed opportunity for them to really see the power and potential to be pain-free.
That's beautiful and feels quite altruistic. And my next question is, yeah, but why? Why is that such a big deal to you? What's it to you if they suffer?
Because I've experienced it myself, and
Mm.
I know how challenging it is. And in just the society that we live in, where we don't often show our full selves, and where so many people are just struggling silently with chronic pain. Uh, when somebody transforms their life, it transforms everybody around them. And so it feels to me it's a service. It's like a calling. I can't
Mm.
I can't separate it.
Yeah. Like the image I'm having is you banging on this window going, it doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah, which not everybody wants to hear. Like, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
So there's that.
yeah.
Um, how religious are you?
I was raised Jewish, but I would consider myself very spiritual,
Okay.
and open to all sorts of traditions.
When the Christians came on the scene, do you
Hmm.
remember what they did?
A lot of violent things, and yeah.
Okay.
Or
Before they got violent, what did they do?
okay. Sorry, I thought we can edit that part out just as a timeout.
No, we don't. I like it real. I like it real.
um, evangelizing. Yeah.
Yeah. And what is evangelizing?
Depending on your definition, some form of convincing or maybe not convincing, but showing other people a different way.
So we're quite passionate about it, right?
Yes, who are quite passionate. Yeah. And to people who uh, maybe don't want to hear that.
Hmm. What
Hence all the violence.
interesting, right? So they went and they said, we found a new way. The new
Mhm.
way in this case was Jesus and love and Old Testament, forget it. We found a new way. This is it. This is it. And some people were like, wow, this is amazing. And some
Yeah.
people were like, no, we quite
Mm.
like the old way. And then they talked a lot more and they got a bit louder and eventually they got a bit too loud. All the way up to violence, which from our perspective now is like it's mind blowing. But if you have
Yeah.
children, we'll see how that works. And the
Yeah.
frustration ramps up. No, I
Oh
am,
yeah.
and you must believe
Yeah.
my way. And then if you don't, and
Yeah.
so it's just interesting to observe human behavior there. But it all comes back to they were really passionate about something because
Yes.
they found something that is true for them
Yeah.
and that really worked and that revolutionized everything.
Yeah.
So
And
what?
grounded in it's interesting because it's grounded in, the same principles that I'm talking about, which is essentially love and compassion.
Hmm, okay. What is your view on evangelizing and that's kind of passionate sharing of one's truth?
Yeah. So it's great and nobody has to believe it, right?
Mhm.
Um and there's yes, some people might be super super receptive to it and are ready for it. Other people are like, this is like kind of like I was when I first read this book about, my pain, saying it's, generated by the brain. It's like throwing that out. But eventually, I get to it. So it's something that if I believe in free will, which I do, and that, everybody has a choice, then everybody has a choice whether to walk down that path of being evangelized or evangelizing themselves or not.
Hmm. So everybody has a choice whether they want to change their belief or not.
Exactly.
The people we
Exactly.
call Jewish now were the people who didn't change their belief.
Right. Yeah. That's a fair point. Yeah.
The other
Yeah.
ones are called Christians
Right.
or any other religion, but especially Jewish and Christian because, I mean, Jesus was Jewish.
Right. And okay, so I see where you're going in terms of the analogy with religion, and I think there's a lot of merit to it. The piece that's in my head that's like this is a little bit different is objectively saying like there's an epidemic of belief that structural issues cause pain. And there is a boatload of science that says simply that's not true. It's not even a faith-based thing. It's like I can point to dozens of studies that say a herniated disc in 88% of cases does not cause back pain. So it's like there's an element of um and maybe this is kind of a blind spot of mine, but there's an element of truth to it. It's like um kind of a scientific objective truth.
Yeah. Now, we don't want to get too stuck on the religious example.
Right.
And the Christians would have pointed out there is an element of truth. There was a Jesus, he performed these miracles, he overcame death.
Yeah.
We've seen it with our own eyes. They come from a similar standpoint of,
Mm,
but we know this is true. The point
mm,
I want to make and I want to draw your attention to is that when as humans we find something that's revelation, that's revolutionary,
mm,
that's revelationary. We're going to mix the
mm.
two. There is
Nice.
a real urge to share the message, and that's actually beautiful
Mm,
because it's genuine drive. It becomes a little bit how are we going to call it? It becomes a bit problematic when the person that has found the thing is trying to force it on someone else,
right.
right? So we
Right.
can agree on that.
Yes.
What we want, and you were very clear on that, is you want people to feel free
Yeah.
and you want to be free to express yourself fully.
Right.
So there needs to be a certain okayness in expressing fully what you believe,
Mm,
whilst holding a space for someone else to go, that's cool, it's not my world.
mm,
There are different worlds and different realities present at the same time. And it
Mhm.
sometimes is absolutely mind-blowingly frustrating when we are grounded in one reality.
Yeah.
Relationships are another beautiful example of this,
Yeah.
where you
Yeah.
have two people with completely different realities, and one of us will be convinced that the other one cannot be right at the same time
Right.
because they exclude themselves mutually.
Right.
I am right. Because have we met? Yes. So, duh.
Yeah.
And the more I have to be right, the more the tension becomes a real thing.
And the more you push away the very thing that you're trying to do.
And the more there will be rejection as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because the rejection is based on this idea that I have to be right in the first place.
Right. Right. And what it's interesting because I say this to clients and to everybody really, which is pass this through the lens of your own intuition. Like I don't believe that I have the only like this way, which I'm A, not the only person doing it, and B, not the only person doing like it in this way in this space. And B, it's yeah, it's not going to work for everybody, and it's not the only way that it's not
Mhm.
the only way to heal, of course. So I think, and I'm starting to even feel that shift of, you know, if I hold that everybody has free will around what they choose to believe, that there's an element of like, of course, some people are going to reject this. Of course, some people aren't going to be evangelized, and some people are going to be evangelized on their own terms. Like somebody who I met with who said, you know, Alec, I was 50% convinced before we had a conversation that my pain wasn't structural, and now I'm like 70-80% convinced. So like that even that's a you could see that as a win of like, okay, that person moved further down that path, great. um and requires a different definition of success, I think.
Ah, okay. What's your definition of success?
Enroll yeah, well, so my broadest definition of success, like my highest self, is being a resource for people on this journey. And I always say, you know, for some people that is in-depth bespoke one-on-one coaching. And for other people, that might be sharing a book. For other people, it might be, you know, them reading a LinkedIn post or something like that. Um, but it's I think moving people along in that journey to come back to themselves. Like that's what the work is really, really about. Like I think that's what chronic pain calls us inward to do.
What is
It's a very
success?
esoteric definition of
I'm
success.
all for it. That's fine. You can go esoteric on me. We can travel very
Yeah.
far.
Yeah.
But what is success for you? What if you say success to me is when I talked to 10 people and they all said, you're right. Or success to
Mm,
me is when I've made $1 million without having to lift a fingers. Or success to me is
mm.
when 100,000 people are pain-free because of
Yeah.
my,
Well,
or all of the
success to me, yeah, success to me is millions of people becoming chronic pain free and changing the way the world sees chronic pain. That is
nice.
success to me.
Yeah, that is huge success. The
Yeah.
only thing is with changing the world is it can happen.
Yeah.
That the only thing is it can happen.
Yeah.
And it's a big ambition and a difficult goal to measure.
Right. Itty bitty steps on the way. Yeah.
You know. So would you be willing to be successful before the world has changed?
I would hope so, because if not, I'm going to be pretty miserable for a pretty long time.
You know.
Maybe. We'll see. I don't know. Could
Well,
change tomorrow.
it's
But
your definition of success. If you say
yeah.
success is when I've changed the world,
Yeah. That's and that's fair. I think I'm maybe thinking of it more as like a vision of a company, like of um some big audacious goal that you might not reach, but is always kind of the North Star.
sure.
So success to me, hmm, that's a good question, and something that if I think about operationalizing it and kind of drilling down, is it I'm not exactly sure. Is it, you know, the number of people I might impact and help become pain free in a year? Is it Something along those lines. It's like the number of people who I'm able to touch in with this work in a given time frame.
10 people a year?
I'd want more than that.
20 people a year?
I'd say probably like in the hundreds, at least hundreds for 20. Yeah, hundreds for this upcoming year, 2024.
Hundreds? How many hundreds? 200s? 500s?
At least 100. That is success for me for
So success
2024.
for you would be to have touched 100 people in 2024 to help become pain-free. That's quite a tangible idea of this is what success is, and much more realistic than changing the whole world.
Yeah.
I wrote a whole piece about success coming from succession.
Mm.
This is something that I see. So succession is a biological principle that you may be familiar with or may not be familiar with. Checking.
Only the well, when you said Succession, I thought of the TV show Succession, which I haven't watched. So please enlighten me.
So I'm talking about biology, where so when you have a rock and a little, I think it's called lichen, comes this little kind of plant that doesn't need a lot at all. It goes on there, but as it grows and dies, it forms just a tiny little bit of biomass, enough for some moss to take hold of. And then moss in itself is a plant that grows through succession. So there's one layer that dies, forms a nurturing ground for the next layer. When it dies, forms a nurturing ground for the next layer. And so over time, biomass is built up. Now we've got enough for grass to take root. Now, as we have more and more grass, more biomass, eventually we have more earth for a tree or a bush, first a bush and then a tree. And so succession is the principle of layered
Layered evolution.
Layered evolution, layered progression.
Mm.
And I'm pretty proud of seeing it like that. So for me, success comes from succession. I find it very useful to see it that way, rather than success is when I've made $1 million.
Yeah, I'm writing that down. I like that.
Have it.
Okay. So then maybe what you're getting at is like what are kind of the steps then, the succession steps to that 100 people impacted in 2024. Is that what
that's
what you're getting toward?
And beautiful. Yeah. I'm gonna reel you back, because we're liberating your sense of rejection so that you're free to speak to people. And we started out by looking at what is it that gets you even into that fear of being rejected. Then it was somewhere around, well, here I am, and I want to tell people there's another way, and you don't have to suffer, and they don't, it gets me crazy. And I pointed you into this whole story, comparing it a little to religion, when people got very, very passionate about their view of the world and didn't really like when other people wouldn't be convinced. And so we did that to just ease off on the idea that everybody has to be convinced, that it's that important for them to be convinced. We completely understand that when we see a reality that is useful, we really want to share it with the world. It's one of the most beautiful human attributes. And that we have the ability to do that is just gorgeous. It goes the other way, where we have to make you see it.
Yeah.
It becomes problematic, and there's a spectrum.
And I'm, as you say that too, as you play it back, I am cringing a little bit about like, oh, I'm turning into, I was going to say turning into part of like something that I don't want to be. Because yeah. And it's that tricky balance, I think, of what I'm trying to balance is, being able to put myself out there and accept somebody not being open to this, and like really that being okay and honoring that. And it's like, and I see how the fear of rejection is kind of creating that emotional charge of like, no, it has to be this way.
Yes. So I'm gonna open up the possibility that it's not a hard balance. It's not a tricky balance at all.
Okay.
I'm gonna open the idea that it's actually about your freedom.
Okay. How so?
So if I can really if I really believe that you have a freedom to be who you are and to believe whatever you want to believe, and that's sacred to me, because you know what's sacred to me is also that I have a freedom to see and believe what I know, what I believe, right? You have your own faith, you have your own experiences, you know what you know. Like, don't argue with me about my God. Like, I'm not having that argument with anyone.
Right.
There's some things that are between your God and you. And I love that, the idea of like your God. What do you mean your God? There's only one God. Even if there's one God for you, or if there's 10 gods, it's gonna be, some things are a conversation between your God and you. It's a very personal conversation when you struggle inside with whatever. Okay. So if I hold my own knowing sacred as well, and I hold your autonomy sacred, then there is a space in which I can say, hey, here's what I see. Here is what I see. I've made this experience with terrible back pain. I was bedridden for years. I tried everything and nothing helped. I'm pain-free now. I've helped, I don't know how many people have you helped by now?
Quite a few. Yeah.
Quite a few. 50.
Yeah.
I've helped quite
Dozens.
dozens. I've helped dozens of people now becoming pain-free, who weren't pain-free before, who tried a bunch of stuff. We did this work and it worked. So here's what I see. There is a different way to think about pain that is, at the very least of things, very useful. And at the most of things, the truth that has been ignored before. Now we can't argue, you know? Can't reject you for that. Well, I don't believe you. This is all.
You had, I was going to say, you had me at here's what I see, because it's such a, and that's why I wanted to write that down, because it's such a disarming statement, right? It's not challenging anybody. It's like, this is my truth. This may or may not resonate with your truth. And like, that's perfectly okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here is what I see is brilliant, because it's so true. This is what I see. If somebody comes to me and says, Evelyne, I think the coaching industry is a huge hoax. It's just a massive pyramid scheme where people charge each other loads of money to do bullshit, and most of coaches don't even know what they're talking about. It's not an argument I want to get into with you, but here's what I see. I've been working in this industry for 20 years, and the people who work with me create considerable results that have them very, very happy. And none of my clients is under a bridge, even though most of my clients have paid a small fortune. So what I see is that something here really, really works. Will this work for everyone? Is it a mass model? Probably not, especially when it comes to bespoke coaching. But there are a lot of people who have skills that they are very good at helping other people with. One of these skills is called coaching. Now, coaching is not a regulated profession. Everybody does what they want. I can't take a stand for every coach on the planet, but I can tell you that for me personally, coaching has changed my life. For my clients, I know it has changed their life. That's why they come back. Why they talk about me. And also that's why I sleep really well at night, because I know like I love what I do because it works. So I can't argue with you about what the industry is or what some people do, or who some people are, and how this is wrong and that is wrong. You're probably right. And maybe you're not. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But what I see is, if I have a really good connection with someone, I am able to solve problems with them very, very fast, much faster than they would ever do by themselves. Wisdom downloads through me, and we just co-create the most amazing results for people. And I love it. Now,
yeah.
Okay. So you can still say, I think you're bullshit. And I go like, okay, but we're probably not going to stay friends if you speak that way, right? It's like,
right. Yeah. And here's what I see. That feels,
here's what I see.
that just really aligns.
Good, 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 good. Yeah.
Mm.
I went on a whole tangent on a different industry to show you how because things can get charged.
Yeah.
It's almost,
Yeah.
if you're not clear, it gets to you.
Yeah.
So what, Alec? You're not even a doctor. Have
Yeah.
you studied anatomy?
Yeah.
Because I
I have
have.
not.
So you're
Right.
trying to tell me. So that conversation I can
Mm.
only have when we get in this head headbutting
Yeah.
space. When you are clear, I'm not a doctor. I
Yeah.
don't know what doctors know. But here is what I know. Here is what I've experienced. And you can say, I'm not saying they're wrong. They're probably really right. They know so much more about these and this and this and this.
Right.
I have no insight in.
Right.
Here is what I know. People who have chronic pain come to me. We work for how many sessions?
Sometimes as few as 4.
Sometimes as few as 4 sessions, and they walk away without their pain. How does that sound? Like, is that good? Is that good? No, you just told me
Mm.
you have chronic pain. I can probably help you. Would you like to try?
Mm.
And if they said, you know what, I'm good, then that's fine.
Mm.
that's that's and that's fine.
Yeah.
Has to be fine.
Yeah.
Has to be their
Yeah.
choice.
Mm. Yeah. And it's like the way that you said that too, it comes, I think, as you were sharing it, realizing like that's the response that I sometimes like naturally get to if I'm really in a place where the rejection doesn't matter.
Mhm.
And it's like that response that you just shared, it feels like it can be natural. And yet it's like that, yeah, it's like the rejection piece and like the playing small that gets in the way of something that feels so much more natural and
Yeah.
easy flowing.
That's the reason why sometimes these parts come and kick us in the butt from behind is because they're literally from behind. They are from the
Mhm.
past. So the
Yeah,
piece that I
totally.
want to get into is little Alec.
Mm.
It's when you were around somewhere between 6 and 9, probably. How were you did you have an experience of rejection that comes to mind that we can have a look at here?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Well, when I was, let's say, 12 years old, 11 or 12, my best friend from childhood just decided to essentially break up with me and not want to be friends anymore.
Oh,
Hurt
so
like hell.
so
So
painful.
painful.
So
Yeah.
between 6 and 9, 12 is totally between 6 and 9. I'm with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Math.
So at 12, your bestie broke up with you
Mm.
and it hurt like hell. What did you make that mean about you at the time?
At the time, I made it mean that I had caused it, that it was all my fault, and that it was something I did or something I didn't do that led him to not want to be friends.
Mm. Hmm.
And it's interesting because it's the same language that I used for
All right.
like, something I did or didn't do in terms of
Ex-
talking to prospects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah. Yeah.
So back in the day, you had a strong experience of rejection that the psychologist would call traumatic because it was
Mm.
strong. It was just intense.
Yeah.
Trauma is a big word, but it was intense experience of rejection, very human. And back then, you made that mean that you did something not right. You should have done something different. You personalized it. You made it about you.
Right.
Was it about you back then? Do you know by now?
I mean, it's not entirely, no. And I realized afterward, like we reconciled later in life. Um, and yeah, it was clear that there was other stuff going on in his life that led to it. Um,
Phew.
and yeah, and also that it was a yeah, that I thought that I had taken on all of the pain and the anguish from it, but also like there was an element of that for him as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. So back then, you personalized it, you made it about you. You thought you
Mhm.
had taken over all the pain, and you thought that you were the one who caused the whole thing. You
Mhm.
have you have since then learned that's not how it works. That's never how
Yeah.
it works. It takes two to tango.
Right. Right.
And to salsa, and then other dances have more people in them. Anyway, this was not a solo dance. This was not a solo performance. So
Yeah.
it couldn't have been all you. But back then, look, you were only 12. 12 and
Yeah.
quite conscious, actually.
12 is quite what?
12 and quite conscious, actually.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you could have also said what I made that mean is that he's an asshole. I should have never chosen him as a friend. You could have gone this way. You
Yeah.
went that way.
Yeah.
Two fingers.
And what
And
came out was,
there's that. And this all these circumstances in this person's life and their psychology and what they projected onto you, and maybe a few things that you've done that contributed to that, and this and that. But it's not you. It didn't mean you. It didn't mean anything about you as a person as such.
yeah. And it yeah, it wasn't about me as a person. And it didn't and the other piece that's coming into my head is the protection mechanism that then was created from that was, protecting against that ever happening again, right? And so protecting against, essentially fear of abandonment or
Yeah.
being stabbed
How
in
do
the
you
back.
how do you do that? How do you protect against these things?
Um, I'd say there's an element, and I know we've talked about this before, and it has a double-edged meaning, perfectionism. So coming from a place of fear, like, from a place of love, perfectionism has served me so deeply. Coming from a place of fear, it's like I need to do all these things to make sure that I don't end up in the same
Right. I
place.
better
So I'm going to twist and contort myself.
yes, I better get this right or it's on me.
Yeah,
Right? So
exactly.
your job is 150%, because then at least you can tick your box and say it's not me, because then you know. But if you don't do 150% or even 100, well, then don't complain, right?
Yeah.
Because clearly it would be on you. So it's so interesting to see that the same system that created the belief that, oh, the rejection meant I did something wrong, created a whole system of, and therefore I better do things right, so I'm not going to self-blame on that.
Yeah.
Which is a guiding force in your life now, and when we're untangling that.
Right.
So to untangle, we're going to do a really quick and very effective process whereby you get to close your eyes and relax, and inside yourself find little Alec, who's probably sitting somewhere. Maybe he's throwing some rocks in a pond. You'll see him there. And I would like you to walk up to him. You are the big Alec. You are you. And put an arm around him and explain to him what someone walking away from you actually means. And when you've done that, you'll give me a little nod. Super. And then explain to him in a really kind voice what a great boy he is. And what a good heart he has to care about things so deeply. And to take things so to heart. That really shows us what a beautiful nature he is. Maybe you want to give him some assurance that you're going to look after him and you're going to be there for him in any moment of need. He can just turn to you because you're there. And then, if you please, you can also speak to him about how he doesn't have to get everything right. He's allowed to go out in the world and play and be himself, be a little boy. And actually, if he could get quite a few things wrong, he'd be ever so proud.
Mm.
Because there's this idea that we don't come to this earth to be perfect. There's this idea that we come to this earth to experience life. And you're allowed to learn. You're allowed to learn from mistakes. It's generally seen as a good thing. But the goal is not to never make mistakes. The goal is to have experience and to become rich in experience. And maybe, if you please, to tell him that you'll be so proud for every experience he dares to give to himself. And when they are hard, then you'll be right there for him. And when they're easy and triumphant, you'll be right there for him. You're doing a great job, Alec. And let me know when you've done that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And then I want you to imagine yourself with your little Alec by the hand, walking up into a new world where you go and you share this amazing discovery you made about pain with people, with someone. Imagine one person. And they're listening to you and they're fascinated. And imagine yourself becoming really quite animated about it and really free to share just how great this discovery is. And how honored you'd be to help this person too. And you see that this person is getting really, really interested and into it. And then I want you to imagine yourself speaking to another person. And you tell them all the things that you see. And little Alec is right there. And you really go for it. And that person really doesn't get it. Really doesn't share it. And I want you to imagine watching them with compassion and an okayness, because you know what you know. And that includes knowing that some people just aren't ready, or just have a different worldview, or just need something else at the moment, or that you don't even understand everything. And it's okay. And you have little Alec at your side and he's laughing with you. It's okay. And you can see yourself parting from that person and you guys are smiling. Cool. That was an experience. And then I want you to imagine you speaking to someone and you're getting all your words mixed up and some of it's not coming out right at all. You've got little Alec at your hand there and he's laughing his head off. He's like, oh my God, you can't even get your words right. And you're laughing too, because sometimes this stuff happens. It's just that day, bad hair day. And the other person looks at you and goes, what are you on about? And you're just laughing and saying, hey, you know what? I don't know what I'm on about today, but it's okay. And then you take a deep breath and you center yourself and you find, oh, I know what I'm on about. There's this thing I found out. There's this thing I found out about how I help people. And you know, I don't need a lot of words, but here's the gist of it. People have pain. We do this thing. Pain goes. Does that sound interesting? And it's that simple. And little Alec looks at you and you look at him and you laugh, because how could you ever make it more complicated than that? It's just right there for you. And the other person goes, oh, I get it. Well, that sounds intriguing. Tell me more. In fact, don't tell me anything. Just show me. And you go all have a laugh, because life is a lot more simple than you thought. And I want you to imagine that you and little Alec are hand by hand, hand in hand, experiencing this ease and this joy of being and of trying things out and of playing with this freedom that you have. And you know that whatever you do, you can't actually go wrong, because even going wrong is cool. You'll have a laugh, you have a story, you have something. There's no problem. There's only solutions. And you look at little Alec and say, you see, that's what you're going to grow into. And you can see him going, my word, isn't that so cool? this is what I get to grow up into, to be that free to express myself and to share so generously with people and to hold them with so much love, whether they're ready or not. Don't be too surprised if they come back a few years later or a few weeks later, or even the next day. And with that peace in your heart and that certainty that life is benign and you are whole, you don't need to protect yourself from hurt because you're okay with feelings. You can send Alec back to play. And you can slowly but gently return to the waking consciousness by becoming aware of your hand on your heart and the shoulders and your neck and your butt cheeks on the chair. I'm presuming there's a chair under your butt and you're not levitating. You never know with people like you. And the smile on your face. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes. Hi, welcome back.
Hello.
Hi, what up? What up? Dude.
That was nice. There was yeah, visual, like really powerful visuals and really nice somatic sensations as well that accompanied that.
Cool. How are you feeling if we're thinking about getting things right and making sure that everything's perfect so that you don't get it wrong?
There's I felt this in it as well. It's like the freedom of like being aware of how much like strain there is around holding that, getting everything right and tension. And then just like a freedom of like, wow, if I'm free to be rejected or just free to do whatever, then it's like so amazing. It's free.
It's so free.
Yeah. It's so freeing. Yeah. And that's and that is the link that's like the seed I feel like I can water that gets me to a place of excitement for rejection. It's like that I've like genuinely felt that of like just seeing it in a new way. And just allow that to grow.
The image I have for you on that is a ball. You know, when a ball bounces and person A doesn't catch the ball, does it make the ball less fun?
No, maybe the other person's a bit less fun if they keep doing that over and over, but yeah, the
ball,
ball itself does not change.
The ball doesn't change the value of the ball or the purpose of the ball, or anything about the ball that it wasn't caught.
Right. Right.
It doesn't change the value of the message or the purpose of the message or the power or the potency of the message if it doesn't catch on with everyone.
And at the same time, that ball, as it goes along, might need to be reinflated or, might need to be cleaned or something like that.
You throw the ball. You're not a ball. You're the one who throws the ball. The ball is the message and the idea.
Okay. Yeah. Fair point.
So you get to bounce that ball, and that ball bounces, and the other person will catch it and play with you, and somebody will not play with you.
Right.
It doesn't make the ball any less.
It doesn't. And I think what I was trying to get to there is also it's like reconciling, and this is kind of the other part of the rejection piece. It's like, oh, somebody else could have done that better. And it's like, maybe that's true. Like for somebody else, like for this person, somebody else saying their truth would have landed them in a place where they say yes and they say no to me. And that's okay. And being okay with the idea that, that ball, it's like, the constant refinement, being okay with what that ball is right now. And knowing that over time, like I might want to, get a bigger ball to share with people, or a smaller ball, or a red ball instead of a green one. Does that make sense?
Almost.
Almost. I think that gets to the the quality or like the how I'm delivering things, and really being able to resonate with somebody and recognizing that um
I
that
got that.
it's yeah, okay.
So
Yeah.
when it comes to the message itself, can we work on a message? Can we polish the message? Can we polish the delivery? Can we, can you learn how to throw it in a way that's easier to catch? Yes, of course we
Exactly.
can. And that's the next step. And I'm very passionate about that place, right? Because that's what I work with people on. How do you then deliver that? The first step is to get the individual into a place where they are free to do so.
Right.
And the second step is, well, shall we play now with how we deliver the messages? Because we
Right.
cannot expect ourselves to just know how to share our stories in the most effective way when we have never learned that. Like, just because I have a
Right.
ball doesn't mean I know how to play basketball. It's just,
Right.
but the
Right.
basketball itself isn't better or worse because my skill is better or worse.
Right.
Your message is the methodology you found and the work you're able to do. And you bounce that, and some people will catch it and some people will not catch it. And then
Right.
yes, we can also practice being an even better thrower, an even better bouncer, and targeting it in a better way. But that's secondary to being okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that really lands, because it's like psychological safety, right? Like you're not going to be creative if you don't feel safe to just be who you are and play with
That's
that.
because like the people who can be who they are, they might throw the ball in the worst way and somebody else might still catch it. Like, it's
Right.
fine. It's cool. You can't be dependent on the ball being caught to be okay. It's just not a
Right.
good life. It's just
Yeah.
not.
Not a recipe for happiness or success.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, not a recommended one anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, um, how do you feel about rejection right now?
Like there's an excitement to play with it. I'm not going to say like, oh boy, Evelyne, I'm just going to go out on the street corner and just be having a sign and a little stoop and all that. Um, but there is genuinely like a freedom to play with it. And that to me is really important. And just like lowering the stakes, like that's what it feels like. It's just like the stakes are lowered. Um, yeah, the stakes are lowered.
That's perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
See, I would almost want to take the stakes away, because if somebody doesn't want to work with you, it's nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
They just don't want to do that work.
Yeah.
And sometimes they might not want to work with you because they don't like you. I mean, that does happen.
Yeah.
Rarely, because you're quite, really lovable. But some people might just not be into it.
Right.
Got to be
Yeah.
okay. I
Yeah.
know. It's like, how can somebody not like me?
I know.
I put on makeup.
That's another session.
That's a whole different thing. And it's like, well, because some people just don't. And that's going to have to be
Yeah.
okay as well.
Right.
But
Right.
it's not about you.
Right. Yeah. If we each have our freedom, that person has their freedom to not just accept or reject what I'm saying, but to like me or dislike me, and vice
Yeah,
versa.
yeah, right. Some people just this way and that
Yeah.
one. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Mm.
Is there anything else outstanding, or are we complete? Have we achieved
Mm.
our mission? Check in with yourself.
It feels like yeah, it feels complete. And as always, it's like, oh, there's this other thing that pops up and the next thing and the next thing. And it's like, but yeah, a layer of the onion was peeled back today.
Perfect. Thank you
Yeah.
for saying it like that. And it's so true. So once we've dealt with this, now the next piece has time and space to rise.
Yeah.
Remember the desperation I felt around that, and like, oh, well, why not we haven't done? When you're
Yeah.
dead, you're dead. That's when you're done.
Yeah.
Because there's such a joy in growing and evolving that hopefully, honestly, you're only done when you're dead. Doesn't mean you have to work with a coach for the rest of your life. You don't have to do anything. But boy, is it enjoyable,
Yeah.
to grow and to peel back the onion, or to grow a new onion, or whatever flowers you're into, or
Yeah.
vegetable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love this topic about the fear of rejection, because as we said at the beginning, it is such a culprit for anyone to go out there and be powerful. Now you can go and do some training, learn how to breathe and look into a camera on a stage or to a person, learn these powerful, impactful phrases, blah, blah, blah. If underneath you've got the rotten post of fear of rejection, it's never going to work in the same way. The first thing we want to establish is that freedom, that playing, that willingness to play, lowering or taking away all those stakes, become a vegetarian when it comes to that, boom, and have that freedom to express yourself, let other people be okay. So we're not evangelizing. We're not evangelizing. It's a business. It's an offering. We're offering.
Right.
We're serving.
Right.
Here's an offer. Here's what I see. Here's what I've experienced. Here's what I know. Do you want it? If you want it, here's what's available. Here's how it works. Here's how much it costs. There you are. Like, we're not running after. We go to a shop. We're not running after with a Gucci dress on. You have to.
Right. Right.
You see that?
That'd be pretty terrifying.
It would be, but that's what salespeople.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You got it. You got it.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't want to be like that.
And you're not. You're
Yeah.
far from that. You're far from that. I love to poke fun at it, because I like when we exaggerate things, it just really reflects it in a different way.
Yeah.
You're
That's
definitely.
true. Yeah.
I want you to have that freedom to really just play with it. It's not you they reject, as we know. Nobody's breaking up with you. Nobody's, it's everybody has their own stories. You get to play and express, and you get to offer something absolutely phenomenal to the world. Absolutely phenomenal to the world. Alec, I'm going to put the link to your website in the description of this video. If anyone watching this has chronic pain and might want to see what you're offering, they need to know where they're going.
Yeah.
The website on down there for anyone. And I'm really grateful that you took the time and shared yourself with us, because you're very open and very available to the coaching and to going deep. And that's what makes the magic possible. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And I'll just say, just had a moment just there where it's like, it feels like this time went by in a flash of like really feeling dropped into this whole experience. And yeah, I kind of, as you were saying about coaching earlier, this isn't something that I would have gotten to, it's not a place I would have gotten to on my own, or it might have taken me a heck of a long time to do. Yeah. I'm not just thinking about the change, but it's actually, I feel it in my body.